you could subdivide people. People can live there, but they can be separated, but in one house. So there's like a social distancing living.
I think they call that a compound, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Like that's what everything is, really, kind of, right?
Right.
Social distance, right? I bet the rest of the world is hurting because um, in California we all have cars. Right?
Right.
The rest of the world they have public transportation.
Right.
Like we're fully prepared for this, right?
Right.
Supposedly, but then we're all still getting infected. How do
Yeah.
you figure that? We still have the highest spike rate. I mean, aside from Florida and New York has gotten better, but ours has gone up.
Well, first of all, look at the size of our state, Leo. Let's start there. We take up the entire West Coast. Do you know how many states that is back east? That's all the hotspots combined.
That's true.
Let's start there.
Yeah, but population-wise, what's the population of, say, New York State?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have
Even
to.
though it's much smaller, you know?
Yeah.
You have to watch the population count.
Right. Well, I've got better things to do than to sit there and take every state and figure out what the population
No,
count is.
just New York, because
Oh.
we're spiked up.
Let's see. And you know, Cuomo shut everything down so hardcore in the beginning.
He did, but then they were the worst hit too.
Right.
So that makes sense.
Well, and it's also such a high density, right? I mean, the current metro area population of New York City is 18.8 million.
18.8. Wow.
Yeah.
So we have.
And I think we have 40 in the Bay Area.
We have about 40 in Southern California, I think, between all the counties.
Because isn't Newport City a hot spot right now? Newport
No,
Beach? No, it's not. Okay.
not necessarily. Okay, let me share this around. Let me.
Oh yeah.
My God, I can't believe like all the agony I went through previously trying to figure out how to stream to all of them.
And now it's like a button click or something.
Well, you just share it like a post.
Oh.
You just share it. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. One more. What are you drinking?
Water with ice cubes.
All right.
Throw for 3 hours. I'm a little parched.
Parched? What's that mean?
Thirsty.
Don't use big words on me on Friday, okay? It makes their head hurt. All right.
I'd like to think it's cocktail hour, but I still have way too much swirling around in my head.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right. People are rolling on. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday.
Hello, everybody.
My name, of course, is Leo Chen. This is Maya Hiersoux. And this is Wisdom Club Live, where we inspire unlimited possibilities.
Woo.
Yes. And so we didn't have, I mean, we have, you know, Maya is graciously agreed to come on to be kind of a co-host to kind of just have a conversation and talk through a recap of the week. I want to go through some of the stuff that we went through this week, and she has her little report, of course, also from Northern California. And I think both of these areas here that we reside in are super hot spots, and we basically cover, you know, most of California between the two of us. You know, instead of having another guest like we do every day, a new guest, I thought would be good to do a little bit of recap. I want to recap some of the guests that we've had recently and just briefly go over them in case you had missed it, and you know, give some highlights and things like that. as well as what's happening just all around us, lifestyle-wise, or real estate business-wise, and just the things that we're hearing from all of our great business partners, affiliates, referrals, and other agents and brokers. And I'd love to hear what's happening, with all of that stuff on your end as well, Maya. And so without further ado, why don't you, Maya, introduce yourself once again for those who are just coming on and seeing you for the first time?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Leo. I'm very happy to be here. My name's Maya Hiersoux. I reside in Northern California in the East Bay of San Francisco. So if you're in San Francisco and you're driving across the Bay Bridge, as soon as you get across the Bay Bridge, you have Oakland to your right and you have Berkeley to your left, which is divided by the Caldecott Tunnel, which takes you out to La Moraga. Anyway, I focus selling real estate in Berkeley and Oakland and spiraling out from there. So it definitely spirals probably a good 10 miles in each direction because Oakland is a very large city. I don't know what it is compared to Los Angeles, but it's very large. So I've been selling real estate there. And what I can say about our market right now, much like I would imagine yours, Leo, is that we are still lagging behind in our inventory. And because of that, we're kind of having our spring and our summer selling season all at the same time. And this is not really a professional term, but this is what we're saying on our calls is that, oh, I'm getting feedback.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was on my end. My apologies. Continue. Continue.
Anyway, the market is moving swiftly and forward. Most cities are seeing incline of sales as well as median price. Some areas in double digits, which is mind-boggling. And for the houses, it's interesting. Either it's hot or it's not. So when I say that, what that means, when it's hot, literally there was a house that got 22 offers last week. There was another house that got 31 offers. So on the flip side, there's some that are not getting touched at all. It's probably location and price. We're having a pricing strategy right now that's kind of backfiring on us. We typically underprice our houses for auction mentality to try to drive overbids. And lately, because COVID was such a new, we don't know what the heck is going on, we switched to something called transparent pricing, which is a term no other market uses that I've ever heard of. And what that means is that is the price that the seller has set that they will take should they get an offer at it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it really backfires, and then you see them pivoting 3 weeks later to a below market price. What we are seeing definitely is in San Francisco, the condo market has totally softened. The move from housing was so expensive in San Francisco that we definitely had 3 to 5, 6 people living in a 3 and 4 bedroom apartment. And because of COVID, we're seeing a migration away from that into single family living or single condos. So that's happening in San Francisco right now. Their condo market is softening. Some of our condo market is softening, especially in West Oakland. West Oakland was hot, hot, hot because it was literally a 7-minute BART ride. And BART is our public transportation system here. And that was selling crazily. And now, unfortunately, it's kind of sitting because nobody has to go into the city anymore.
Yeah. So there's a lot there, and I want to make sure people don't get lost. I mean, we do this every single day and day out, 18 hours, like calls, and and we can like spit out all the stuff here and there, and this is how many, and 3 bedroom and 5 people, and this offer, that offer, like, for the average people. Like I do it too, guilty, and I was like, hey, let's slow down a little bit, and so that we can digest some of it. But I understand perfectly like where you're coming from with stuff like that. But let's just talk about just offers real quick,
You bet.
right? Okay. Now, when you say, okay, some homes we're getting a ton of offers, 5, 10, 15, 20, and then other homes we're not getting so much offers or not getting much action sit on the market. Like, do you have a feel of why a certain house versus another house that do not? Is it strictly, we're always talking about the same categories, right? Location, condition, price, right? And that's the main thing. We can add in other ones, but I think that's enough to kind of move a home or not, right? And
Absolutely.
so, are you seeing those typical reasons why people aren't offering on some houses versus others?
I think honestly it's coming down to price right now because we have some very unrealistic sellers. They're like, I'm just gonna stick a pie in the sky price on it and see if it sells. Not working.
Mhm.
Not working. We are starting to see, so yes and no. The challenge with the Bay Area is you always started in a starter home, which was the smaller homes, 2 1s, kind of in the flatlands, close to the BART stations. Then you would have a child and you'd move up to the hills for a view, which was away from a BART station. And then the next generation that was brought up was like, I don't want to be in the hills. I want to be by BART. That drove the prices up. People didn't want to live in the hills. However, I think honestly, COVID is really, I was just talking about it with 3 clients on the way up. COVID is really making everyone reanalyze and rethink about what is a priority in their life. Do they really want to live in the Bay Area? I'm sure they're probably saying the same thing for Los Angeles. It's expensive here. We have a high tax base. um, and so the houses that weren't getting a lot of play up in the hills are getting a little bit more now because people are like, if I'm going to be stuck in my house, I do want a view. Like if it's not important for me to be on BART or mass transit, yeah, I'd like to have a nicer house. I do think the play for us is also multi-generational family homes. Whether you want to call it a granny unit or an auxiliary dwelling unit, an ADU, an in-law, um, those are definitely becoming more popular because you're having either a nanny stay in it or you're having your parents stay in it.
Yeah,
So
I just when I survey just our marketplace, in general, and I can say probably up there as well to some degree, is that we have, as you mentioned earlier, there's a low inventory. Okay. And now for those people out there watching who don't know, a low inventory just means that there's not as many homes on the market for sale. There's less homes to choose from. Okay. And so I'm going to say that for, I'm not done my scientific study on it, but I'm going to say for every one seller, we probably have 7 to 10 buyers in general. Now, whether all those 7 to 10 buyers end up buying or not, that's a different story. Like if I asked 20 people, uh, you know, if they want to buy or sell, right? Most people are like wanting to buy because they've been holding off, they've been waiting for the interest rates. they've been um, they've been waiting for
sorry,
the
hold on.
interest rates to come down. No worries.
He just walked in the door. He's like, I have a question. I'm like,
Yeah. Who are you talking to, Maya?
my son. I don't know where he went. He just disappeared again. So I'm
Okay.
sure he'll show up.
How old is your son?
He's 7.
He's 7. All right.
He's 7. Yes.
Okay, you ran away, I guess.
He'll be back. Trust me. He loves video.
So if I just went down the neighborhood and I asked 10 people, do you want to buy or sell? I'm gonna safely say that, maybe 7 out of 10 say they want to buy. They want to buy for the first time. We have more first-time home buyers than ever before.
I agree.
Okay. And I can attest for some of it because I have lease listings and I'm just getting calls, especially Thursday or Friday, because they're like, I want to go see homes on, Saturday and Sunday. So they start calling. And they all are renting because their lease is up. They want to change it up because of COVID or whatever. They just want to change in scenery. Now they realize how the COVID living is like. They want something else to refresh and then also reorganize whatever it is, their living situation, their living location, their living indoors, office, whatnot, to fit the new COVID era, right? And so they are out in droves looking for rentals. But when I ask them, why are you renting? Have you thought about buying? Okay, 7 out of 10 at least say they want to buy. They maybe need some guidance for one, because they're first-time home buyers. They've always rented. They're not sure what the process is, or they said, we've looked into it. We want to save money for down payment, and so we are maybe 6 months out or something like that.
Sorry.
Hi, buddy.
Can you meet Leo real quick? Turn around.
Hello, Leo.
Hey, where'd you get that cool shirt?
Preston Plays. He's a YouTuber.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I need you for a second.
I can't come. I'm on this call. No, you need to give me about another 20 minutes. Okay. Can you close the door, please? Thank you.
He was disappointed, but he obeyed. Very good.
Which is surprising.
Maybe because I'm standing here watching him.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of buyers and there's not enough sellers. So what happens, right? Like, what are all these buyers going to do? They got to rent, right? Or they got to try to find a home. And if they definitely want to buy a home, then they're one of those 10, 15, 20 offers. Okay. So if you and I here are sitting here talking to the masses here, we're going to bet that there's probably a lot more buyers out there than that we are talking to sellers. So in the sellers side of it, the reason, this is the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because, like, what do you think the buyers, want to know, and what do you recommend for them in this current environment that we're kind of laying out in front of them? Like, oh, there's not enough homes, there's getting a lot of offers. What is your lifestyle like? Do you want to be up in the hills? Do you want, somewhere convenient? For how long, and that kind of thing. So what is your like general just outtake on that if you're talking with the buyer?
I tell them it's a great time to buy. That's what I tell them. I say interest rates are a historic low. Yes, there will be competition, but as long as you know the parameters of the offer that you want to make and you think the house is worth it, then go for it. Mm-hmm. There's no time like the present, is what I'm telling them. Well, the other thing I do say is, are you only going to be living in this home for 2 or 3 years? If you're only going to live in it for 2 or 3 years, you may want to just keep renting. Whereas if it's a long-term play, dive in now. That's what I tell them, because I can't guarantee what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years, but I definitely know if they can hang on to it for 7 years, they'll be okay.
Yeah. What do you think about the people that think that, I don't know what's going to happen, the whole economy is going to crash in 4 months, and then I'll buy, like, how do you how do you talk through that kind of a thing with someone?
Well, I do have a couple of those for sure. I basically just say, I don't have a crystal ball. I do know that our market is due for a correction or a plateau, because historically we're ready for it. We actually were ready for it a year and a half ago. Didn't happen. I do know it probably will happen. And yet the challenge with that, I tell them, is that the lending laws are going to change as well. And it won't be any easy. If you have to get a mortgage, borrow money, you may not be able to, because nobody will be able to. So you're taking your chances,
yeah,
right?
so that's a great point, because like, hey, I want to buy a home and I'm ready to buy a home, but I get scared, because I think the market's going to crash, and maybe I'm going to buy too high, a home that's $500,000 just for easy numbers, maybe in 4 months, like it's only worth 400, right? And so we always say like, well, does that matter really? Because are you going to sell your home? Because unless you sell in 4 months,
Right.
it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't. And the other difference I would say is that at least not all of my clients, but most of my clients are putting 20% down. They don't want to pay the extra fees that you would have to pay putting a lesser amount down. So they already have equity in the house. They're less likely to walk away from it in 4 months if it tanks.
Right, because they got some equity in it.
They do. They already do.
Yeah.
So
So I kind of want to have this discussion in like a he said, she said kind of thing. Is that fun? Do you like it? So what I mean by that is like one person will say, hey, I think it's going to crash. And the other person say, hey, it's a great time to buy, right? Like we make a case. We're not against either.
No.
We just want to make a case for either and play it out, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's say it does crash and then you do buy a house now, right? What would happen? Like, just like so you kind of addressed it, like, okay, well now you own a house, okay, and you actually have more security in where you live than if you rented, right? Because you get kicked out like just like that on a rental, right? And if that's the case, it will be hard for you to find another rental. You got kicked out, right? Because there's probably a record, and who knows, they might ask you to like, hey, reference from your previous landlord or whatever. So that's really tough. Now if you owned, and let's say you're behind on your bills and stuff like that, it does take a really long time for you to actually default, right? Okay, if we play out some of the worst case scenario, like which is better, getting kicked out when you're renting or getting kicked out, when you're are owning, right? And because you're an owner, you have a lot more rights, right, to your living situation than you have renters. Now, I would challenge anybody that's out there watching to argue against this, because I'm not the know-all be-all, right? And so if there is anybody out there who have some opinion about that, I would love to hear it. Maybe Noah here.
Can I have a Kindle?
Not right now, in about 10 minutes.
I don't play with Matt.
It's in the trunk. I can't get it right now.
Can I ask for Glenna?
So
if Glenna will get it for you, yes. The keys are on the counter.
So what are your thoughts around that? Like, do you think that's, yeah, take it, let's go.
It's really loud. Sorry.
I can hear you.
I know you can, but you don't need to hear my kid complaining about a Kindle.
So do you agree with that, or you have something to add to that? What do you think?
I always think home ownership is the better route. You're staking your claim in the ground, you're owning something, you have it if you need it. Yes, as a first-time home buyer, it can be the scariest decision to make, or it could seem like the scariest decision to step into. And yet you're earning equity every time you make that mortgage payment. And if you pay a couple $100 more or whatever you can more, it goes down much more quickly. You make improvements on the house, it appreciates over time. Whereas a rental, you have no stake in it. There's just no stake in it. And that's coming from a homeowner's perspective though. So that's probably why I'm a realtor. I see the value in it.
Yeah, no, we all need to see the values on both ends, right?
Absolutely.
Like we're, just because we're realtors doesn't mean that renting is bad.
No, absolutely not.
We just want to put out the scenarios. This is why we,
Yeah.
I was doing that. And so yeah, I think there's a lot of things that people don't think about as far as actual security. And you bring up a good point about like scary when we were first time buying a home. Yeah, it is a little bit scary, but it is also not very scary at the same time.
Right.
Because if I throw out a big number at you, you're like, oh my God, it's such a big number. Like, $600,000. Like I've never bought anything so much, Well, you're not really buying $600,000 necessarily. You're buying a monthly mortgage payment. That's what you're responsible for at the end of the day.
Right.
Right. Now, if I tell it to you that way, like, hey, it's $300 mortgage, you can call it whatever you want. It's a payment.
Right.
Well, the rent is a payment and the mortgage is a payment. It's a payment, right? Now, how we think about is what we freak out about.
Totally.
Right? We think about like, well, what if this breaks and that breaks and all that kind of stuff? Well, that's all in our brain, right? When something happens, well, we just deal with it. What if your tire, goes flat, on the road, right? If you thought about that all the time, you freak out, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So a lot of that is unneeded fear. But let's go on the other side here. Like, well, if you buy and the economy crashes, which is what we talked about, and if we buy, let's say the economy doesn't crash, then what's the upside and downside? Right? Because those are our two options, right? It crashes,
Right.
doesn't crash.
I always say land is finite. There's more people. There's going to be more people. Land is finite.
Mm-hmm.
The value is always going to increase.
Yeah.
It may not always do it in double digits, like we've come to expect lately. Maybe it's a single digit. Maybe it plateaus for a year. Ultimately, it's going to go up.
Yeah, but what, like 3 times out of 10, like it was in the double digits.
Right.
I'll take that 3 times. I'll take it one time.
It's also in the timing. If you have the luxury to time it the way that you need to for you and your family, yourself, then you can make good money on it. It's usually when you have to sell in a crisis that you end up potentially, not always, potentially losing money.
Max's phone number, maybe, so I can call Max. I can call Max.
We can't call Max right now. We can call him later.
Why?
Because this phone doesn't work. This phone isn't actually a phone. It looks like a phone. It doesn't have a SIM card.
No, I think I tell people like, hey,
can I be left alone for like another 15 minutes, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Loud. I'll just be loud.
You'll just be loud? Okay.
No.
There's a real answer.
So maybe I can do YouTube. Maybe. Okay. I promise I won't do it.
Okay.
Awesome. So I always tell people like you buy when you're ready, not when the market is up or down in the middle or whatever, because you don't really know. If you talk to 100 people, you get 100 different answers. So how do you know if it's really up? How do you know if it's really the right time? Like you don't know until a year or 5 years from now, like whether or not that was the perfect timing or not, because then we'll have the data by then. Hindsight is always 2019, 2020. Right? So so right now, if we're talking to buyers, interest rates are really low. So you can buy more home as if when the interest rate was not as low. So for those of you out there who are buyers, for every 1% difference in interest rates, you can have 10% more in purchasing power. right? So if you could afford a $500,000 home at 4% interest rate, you can now afford a $550,000 home on a 3% interest rate. So because the interest rate is low now, we're going up below the 3% right now.
Yeah.
If you're pretty well qualified and everything. And
Yep.
so versus a year ago was probably about 4%. So your purchasing power is up 10%. But within that 1 year, we've also gained home values gone up 5%, right? So everything kind of balances out a little bit because we have a hot market. Why do we have a hot market? Because interest rates low. So now you have more competition,
Yep.
right? So is it really the right time to buy if you can qualify and you because the interest rates are low and lending is a little bit looser, and you can qualify for a larger loan, then absolutely it's a great time to buy, right? But if the home is more money than you can afford, then maybe it's not the right thing. So I think overall on that, I still always like we can talk round and round about economy, what's going on with COVID, what's going on in the neighborhood, what's going on with prices or interest rates. It all still comes down to like, do you want a home?
Right. That's it's the motivation. If you decide you want a home, then it's the time to buy a home.
Right. And whatever it takes to buy a home, just go buy it because it has in history has never really the home prices have never gone down except when we had a housing crisis,
Right.
12 years ago. And when we did have a housing crisis, nobody had money to buy. And those homes were the lowest ever. And some would argue that was the best time to buy.
Right.
Well, it was the best time to buy, but did you have money to buy it? And did anybody lend you money to buy it? Nobody wanted to loan you money.
Nobody wanted to lend.
So was that a great time to buy? Even though the prices were super, super low, you could have probably gotten a home for 60% to the,
Yeah.
what is it? 6 cents to 60
6 cents to the dollar. Yeah.
60 cents to the dollar, right?
Yeah.
So again, we put ourselves in these scenarios and we talk about it like, hey, is that the best time to buy?
If you have cash, it is.
Right. So, but if you had cash, then any time is the best time to buy.
Right. Right.
As long as you got a good deal on the house, as long as you found the home that you felt was a good value.
Right.
Right. So anyway, I think that's just overall like the buyers kind of a thing. I hate to see people miss out on opportunities to buy right now. Even if you think it's going to crash 4 months from now, are you going to be able to buy 4 months from now? Because it does you no good if you can't buy.
Right. And
But
if you still have your job and you have 2 incomes coming in,
mm-hmm.
and you're in a sector that you don't think is going to be hit,
mm-hmm.
do it.
Yeah. And then there's a reason why inventory homes available for sale are so low, right? It's really low because people don't want to sell because they see a lot of value in their homes. They still believe in their home that going forward, they will continue to gain equity and value from it. And that's why. So that's a plus on home ownership. If people didn't want to own, if it wasn't a great deal to own, then why are people holding on to their houses?
Right.
Right. So I think that gives people a good idea, like where we are right now, even during COVID, as far as the real estate market. I don't want to talk too much really about selling right now because it's really simple. If you want to sell, there's 10, 15, 20 buyers ready to buy your home. So selling is actually quite easy right now if you want to sell. If you want to get out of state, if you want to cash out, do something else, then it is a good time. But for most people, they don't want to risk it because they want assurance. They want safety right now and a sense of security that they have a place to live. If they sell it, where are they going to go? What's that going to look like? So Yeah. You have anything else to add to that?
No, that's spot on.
Okay. You feel the same way in your market, right?
I do. I do see a lot of exodus out of California right now. I've talked to two people that are moving to Tennessee.
Mhm.
Someone is literally, her father's purchasing a house in Colorado right now, somewhere between Boulder and Denver. So we'll
Okay.
see.
Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. Um, so you had just mentioned to me just before we came on, you did see the interview I had yesterday with Ann Rudd,
Yes.
and she's a hoot.
Hmm.
Did you had you known Ann prior to that?
I had just seen her on another like webinar Zoom call for about 20 minutes or so. So I got an end flavor of that.
Okay. So for
Makes me
those
want
of,
to go to Charlotte though. Check it out.
yeah, well, no, honestly, there's a lot of beautiful places to go,
Mhm.
in the country. And now it's more accessible than ever.
Yep.
Maybe five, I'll go on a limb, even like just 5 years ago, maybe those places would seem pretty rural, or like disconnected or not so technologically advanced, or something missing, like, in what you need. But nowadays, I think the growth in all of those cities have come a
Yep.
long way,
Yep.
um, and all the amenities are now there. So literally any state, in any of the cities, you could do pretty well. Everybody has internet, right?
Yep. That's right.
So you do like Charlotte, huh? Like from what she said.
I've always wanted to go there. I've always wanted to visit Charleston. I haven't been to a whole lot of places in the South, so I just think it would be fun. I'll do it at some point. I'll take my. There is a place. I don't know what state it is. I want to say it's North Carolina. I found it on YouTube one day. It has a national park, I believe it is, where you can come in the middle of summer and bring your chair and you get to watch the lightning bugs.
Oh yeah, the lightning bugs.
That looks magical.
Is that the same thing as a firefly? Isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
But instead of like looking more like a flying creature, they're more like bugs, right?
Well, I don't know what they look like. I think so. Basically, from what I saw on this YouTube video, I'll have to find it now and send you the link. Literally, people line up their chairs. They don't have any lights on. And I guess it's only happens for about 2 weeks in the summertime where it literally, I think it might be mating season or something.
Mhm.
And just there's these spectacular light displays floating around as the bugs, I guess they're bugs, right? Fly around.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like I've heard of that term, like lightning bugs, and I'm trying to remember like what they look like. You know.
They look like little flashing lights. I've only seen them once in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
So
Well, I think there's people that like a similar kind of thing for us is people like wanting to come and see the grunions.
oh yes, the running of the grunions.
Yeah, because they don't necessarily have the grunions on the East Coast, do they?
Nope, I don't think so.
Right? It's the West Coast like Mexican thing, right?
Yeah, I saw them when I went to college in San Diego
Yeah,
one night randomly.
yeah,
Not looking for them. There they were.
yeah. So I did see fireflies in Florida when I was in Orlando. And we're sitting out on the lake.
Oh, okay.
We do see them, and then but we sat out there, and the mosquitoes feasted on me like it was a Vegas
You're like,
buffet.
ooh, we like Leo's blood. It's all that ice cream he eats.
I was I was say same thing when I go to Hawaii. The mosquito love me because
Oh,
it it probably tastes like soy sauce or something. Pretty funny. So yeah. So Anne, what did you find interesting about her interview, other than thinking about North Carolina and things like that?
Well, I think the two things that captivated me are that she said she owns a house from the 1900s, or like 1900, and her taxes were $1,800 a year. That is very compelling. That's probably why some of our Californians are leaving. Berkeley alone, we have the highest taxes around. I think they're even higher than San Francisco. It's like $15 for every 1,000 you spend. It's insane on supplemental taxes. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
I get
California
why
in
people.
general.
Hmm?
It's a California tax thing in general, right? So,
That, and then each city adds their own more supplemental taxes, and then people are like, "Wow, Incline Village, Nevada is looking really nice right now."
it's really bad because it's like it's popping up faster than we can beat it back, you know,
Right.
and like it's almost like free money. And people are like, oh, we'll just add another what do you call it, CFD, right? You know, when you look at your tax bill, you'll see CFD, and it's basically a type of Melrose, right?
Yeah.
And so they just stick it on there, and like you almost have no say. So unfortunately, like that's California.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not so
So
compelling.
yeah. So taxes, lightning bugs. What else?
I will say I liked her. Not that I agree with it, and I don't think she was doing it, but she did say that she heard that somebody was marketing a house as a COVID house.
Oh yeah. Well, you and I we're talking about earlier. Like I had like when somebody says COVID house to you, like what are you thinking about? Like what goes through
Well,
your
my first connotation is it's a house full of a bunch of people that are really sick. That's the first thing I think of. Not really quite what I think they're trying to achieve here. Um, Probably a home that is more conducive to, I don't know, I would think maybe homeschooling, or has spaces where you can tuck people away from each other.
Yeah, that's mysterious, isn't it? Like it could be any of the above,
It could
right?
be any of the above.
Yeah. So like okay, if you're all infected, you all go into one house. But that didn't work so well for the nursing homes, unfortunately, right? Like a
No,
lot of
it did
people in the
not.
nursing
And now
homes, like
people
it
are
didn't
trying to
work
think of
out.
how to get their family members out of them, and where are they going to put them? Oh, in that auxiliary dwelling unit in the back. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure. Like you can reinfect yourself, and like you know that might be that's not very good, because if you're lucky enough to survive the first time, like you know,
Right, right.
and they don't
I
know if you actually build up an antibody or not. Like they don't know still, you know. So it's not like you had the flu and you build up antibodies, and then you most likely don't get it again, unless the flu uh, virus changed, and then you get infected by that. So
And then since I do have a 7-year-old, you've seen many times that whole schooling, not schooling thing. That's an interesting one.
yeah, so I think we talked about it in regards to that for kids. It's been so tough on all the parents, right? You have your normal job to do. School was supposed to help you, have your kids socialize and be with other kids and play and learn and grow and study. And now, like, here you go, here's your kid back. We can't take him in anymore. Right? Like, you take a care. You be the teacher now,
Yep, totally.
right?
Yep.
So how has that been for you?
It's been a challenge. And honestly, I'm probably going to quasi move back up to Tahoe, where I can live in a condominium with my parents. They're on the top floor, I'm on the bottom floor, and I can have their help with homeschooling. so that I can do my job as a realtor, which will be in the Bay Area. So that's a whole different layer. And it's still doable, as I learned this entire summer. It adds an extra layer of complexity, and yet it's doable. I don't know how long that is sustainable. My particular school district is telling us that we are going to do 4 weeks of long distance learning, and then they will reevaluate. However, my philosophy is kind of this: if adults aren't willing to get into the same room together, why would you put my kid in that situation? So
it doesn't make any sense really. You know, if we are getting infected, why wouldn't they get infected? You put them together, and
right,
you know, kids don't know. They're not like adults. Like
you
they're
can't
not
tell them
giving
to keep their
6 months.
hands off of each other. They're
Yeah,
gonna do it. They're gonna poke each other. They're gonna hit each other. They're gonna trip each other. They're gonna laugh, giggle, do what kids do, and you can't stop them.
right.
And as much as I do not want to homeschool, I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
until I know it's taken care of.
Well, the upside, you know, if there is an upside, the upside is that um, um, people get a wake up call, like, hey, you know, you can't just dump your kids off and like, 18 years later go, oh,
Oh,
I
there you are.
raised my kid, well,
Well, I will say, Leo, I talked to a couple parents in the last couple days, just checking in with them to see how they're doing. And the oversounding comment, regardless of whether they were together, divorced, single, whatever, was that they really appreciated the bonding time with their child.
yeah,
A lot of these parents had never truly bonded with their kids the way they are right now. And that I think is wonderful.
yeah. But
So
it's a little bit like a forced.
totally forced. Totally.
It
And
was
trust
not
me, I'd
all
rather he went to go play with Connor or Sammy or James
right.
because they can at least entertain each other.
Right.
So,
So again, I keep coming back to this every day as I go through these interviews and talking with people. Is that like we can say these things always like preface it with, it took a pandemic for me to
yes,
get
it
to know
did
my
take a
kid,
pandemic.
right? It took a
It
pandemic
did.
for me to, start the show.
Show.
Yeah, it took a pandemic, for me to, write email to my database. And then for many people, it took a pandemic for them to realize that they should buy a house, right?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah. So okay.
You
So
gotta love where you live.
yeah. No, I mean, it's not. You're not married to your house. Like people move and people can sell their houses, and it's okay. You know, don't feel like you bought a house and like, oh my god, it's like you're married to one person forever or something. You know, people make such a huge deal out of it. And when you finally have bought your home, you're like, hey, I thought I would like this, but now I live here for a year. I actually don't like this.
Right.
So people just, I was talking to a neighbor of mine and he's helping his sister buy a home, and she's like this over analytical person and like, well, this house doesn't have this, I don't want to be over here, and like, it's a discounting everything as opposed to like, hey, let's try this out, let's try that out, I've never bought a home before, I should see if this works for me or not. Like she's like overthinking it, right? Like it's like going to a dealer and say like, I want your top of the line Mercedes. I don't know what I want. I've never driven a car before,
Right.
but that,
But
that's what I want. So like, okay, sorry, you got to pay $100,000. Like, no, do you have a $10,000 model? So I just think overall as a society, not just just people in general, just really overthink stuff. Like nowadays, we're not like a disposable, you know, society or anything like that. But things can be changed.
totally.
You don't like this dress? Okay, we'll go get another one.
Exactly.
Right? So that was part of it. What did you think about the VA aspect of what she talked about?
You know what? I missed that part actually. So I'm going to finish listening to it tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, you missed a lot.
Oh, I know I did. I know I did. And I know she's going on vacation on Sunday, so I'll call her when she gets back.
Yeah, do that. Do that.
Yeah, I'm going.
So this week I also talked to another real estate entrepreneur, and he's up in the Bay Area as well. Have you ever heard of him? His name is gosh, I don't know why I only have his name here, but it's Michael Lamb, and he's dubbed himself the Purple Guy because he always wears purple.
Oh, I did see part of that actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's in San Jose.
San Jose. That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Born
Yep.
born and raised. Born and raised.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, yeah. And so he's helping all the agents out there to better market themselves, either in some tools or technology, or just very basic, you know, marketing tools to just get started. Like a lot of people, like we want to be real estate agents, but we didn't know we had to be marketers.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right? We go, oh, I just
Oh,
saw
right.
yeah, I just sell houses. Like, well, people are just gonna come and say, "Hey, sell my house,"
On my house.
right? Or people come to you and say, "Hey, I want to buy a house. I want to use you." Like, does that work?
uh, hmm. Not that well.
Yeah. Are there a lot of agents in your area?
Oh, yes. However, my personal philosophy is that by the end of this year, we will have lost our first layer, probably newer agents that can't figure out how to market because we don't have open houses. And then secondly, I think next year, 2021, I think we'll lose another layer of agents. We do have quite a large population of older agents, and I just think the technology is becoming too overwhelming for them, to be honest. I really think that's what it is.
I think you're right in the sense that like they definitely do not feel comfortable being on Zoom, right? They'll do it if it's with their friends or something like that. But if it's something that's with their clients they don't know, or something that's unfamiliar, they don't feel comfortable at all.
Yeah.
So what do you think? You've been in real estate a little bit longer than me. So what do you think happens when those agents exit, the market?
Well, I don't know if we're necessarily going to a team format quite yet. We do have some teams that definitely have a lot of market share, but I still think it's going to be the individual agent for right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll start to see that escalate maybe in 3 to 5 years. I could be completely wrong about that. I just think that I also think that as our profession is kind of in the middle of a disruption right now.
Yeah.
And I do think I don't know. There's times when I get very pessimistic about it and I think, oh my goodness, this is going to be such a hard profession to be in 10 years from now. And then there's times when I'm like, I totally got this. I'm not worried about it at all. I do think that our role is going to change because of technology. It already is. I don't know what that's going to look like on the other end. Leo, I take it day by day. I take it week by week. That's what we can do right now. I have my goal, my outcomes that I want in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. And I'm going to charge towards that because that's my personality type.
So how do you feel about the technology you are having to work with right now as an agent? Like, is that something you enjoy doing? As something you don't want to do? Is that something you would rather be doing something else? Because I know a lot of people struggle with this, and it's not just our profession, right? Like a lot of other professions as well, insurance agents. It's moving quickly for everybody. But I just
Absolutely.
wanted to see how you're kind of coping with it. And everybody's different. Some people love it, some people don't. Most
Right.
people seem to not love it because they don't like change.
I don't mind the change aspect of it, which is interesting. And I am definitely of an older generation that did not grow up on a computer. I remember adopting it in college. That'll give you a little clue to how old I am. However, I am really comfortable with it, which I'm proud of. I used to joke at my old company that I was the most tech savvy person there, and that was not saying a lot. However, I knew what an API key was. I knew how to do certain things. And so whenever my marketing person wanted to beta test something, I was always the guinea pig because I at least could punch buttons and do things.
Yeah.
So I actually feel really comfortable doing all that stuff. I think where I'm an optimist, and I definitely see something shiny and then I lose focus. So that's the hardest part for me. So for example, I know I'm going to listen to the end of your interview with Ann Rudd. I had already had something on the books to try and talk to her. I will wait to talk to her when she gets back. And I know that there is a component in there where she can help me with certain things that are just, I don't mind doing them. I know how to do them, but is it the highest and best use of my time? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Those things I'm more than willing to delegate. You know, the perfectionist in me wants to know how to do it first, so that in case this invisible person disappears and I know how to do it instead of feeling completely lost. So there is that component that I want to know how to actually do it and understand it first before I delegate it to somebody. And I think that's where I get caught up sometimes. It's like, okay, I don't quite know it yet. I can't give it away yet. Well, it's not necessarily true. But I do feel comfortable mostly with the technology. Sometimes I really enjoy it, actually. I find that I really love video. I love video. It's easy. I don't ever think twice about it. Maybe I should. I could probably use more scripts sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll say that. And yet I don't ever judge myself. I don't worry about whether I've combed my hair or put lipstick on. It's like, I'm just going to film it. And then I don't ever review it. I never, I'll let somebody else edit it and take care of it. But I don't feel the need to actually, I know many people, and I don't know what this is, where they'll do a minute video and then they have to watch it. And I'm like, why are you watching it? You just did it. Like, who cares?
It's a little bit of self-loathing thing, I think. And I don't like to watch it either. And every time like I do watch myself, it's very, very rarely. And when I do, I regret it. I regret it because like, I know what I said. Why do I have to watch it again?
You're like, do I have to be reminded that I said that instead of that? And I should have said that.
Like
no,
nothing,
I don't.
Nothing in my life. I don't have a conversation with a client and I go, hey, come home and like, let's play it back.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. Like, I know what I did. I know what I did.
That is so right. That is so spot on. It's like, no, you don't do that in real life.
Yeah, and then
why would you do now?
The other thing about technology, I heard a really funny thing from Gary Vee. I think it was last week. And he was like, he was trying to get people, he's on the stage, some sort of conference, and he's telling people like, technology is now, you got to get on, what's hot right now, what's going on right now, and, get on your Instagram or Facebook or,
TikTok, whatever.
Like whatever stuff. I know you're not familiar with it, and I am so sick and tired of people telling me that they didn't grow up with it, that they didn't grow up with this, they didn't grow up with that. Well, dang it, you didn't grow up driving. You're driving. There's no problem with that, right? You learned how to drive, right? You didn't like pop out of the belly and start driving. Like you didn't grow up doing that. Well, we all drive now, right? So he makes a good point, and it's kind of funny, right? Like, yeah, you really kind of don't have any excuse. Like, it's just something we just tell ourselves, and it just seems to make sense in our heads, so that we don't have to do it. Or like, I didn't grow up with this, so I don't have to do it, right? But
that's
we got to do like what is going to be useful and helpful to us, whatever that is.
However, whoever we're serving, our tribe, how is it that they are taking in information, and how is it that we can communicate with them? That's what because I come from a place of service, I need to meet them where they are. I can't put something out there and think they're going to find it. I actually need to meet them where they are. Where are they? Where are they hanging out? Okay, then I'll go there and I'll figure it out. I'll spend, I'll stay up till 2:00 in the morning watching YouTube videos and then ask a couple people and then do something. That's what I do.
Right. Super great. Yeah. So I want to recap one other thing that we had a guest on. His name is Corey Sparkle. He's a local videographer here. Although he hates that word videographer, is a filmmaker. Right? I respect that because he went to school for filmmaking. Like
I totally get that.
He's not some kid that just picked up the camera and
Slices
started like, hey, I'll do your video. I'll do your video too. Like that kind of thing. He studied film. He studied all the mechanics and filmmaking and that kind of thing. So it's different. And I don't know if you had a chance to see any of that, but I do want to touch on it a little bit for the audience out there because he shared a lot of really great things and his journey and his philosophy, on doing all that stuff. And I had him shoot, one of my, super luxury.
I'm all ears. I want to hear.
Our luxury homes, and he shoots a lot of the luxury homes here in the beach area. He resides in Laguna Beach here, so of course a lot of homes here. People know him locally, and does a lot of shooting here with drones and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys out there watching, you want to go back, I'm going to put all of the links of these recent interviews that I have in the post when I'm done here, so that you guys can just click on it and go check it out. Even if you're kind of skimming through for spots and things like that, feel free to do so, because we go into like some deep, long conversations, which is really good. We rarely get to talk to photographers at length. We just kind of like hire them and they just go do their stuff, so it's good to have a chat with them and see what makes them tick. Your experience and things like that with photographers and filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought or take on people that use? Do you have somebody you use all the time? Do you?
I do. I find that there are some that just have the magical touch and can make a house look absolutely beautiful, and they know exactly. They can take one look at the house and know when they need to come back for whether it's a twilight shot or something else. Definitely some are just more gifted than others. We always use professional photography, at least in our area. And then I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, looking online at a Zillow. I am not exaggerating. There was a blurry picture on there. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like, who allowed you to put that on there? Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Photography is so important, and videography is important, and filmmaking is important. And I saw, it wasn't mine. It was a woman in my office named Ann Festi. She actually had, I call it a film. It was beautiful. It was a narrative piece by the architect talking about the home. I was blown away. First of all, the house was gorgeous. And then she had the architect there walking her through the home and explaining the design features and why the staircase was the central focus point and how it led to these other places. I loved it. It was a film. It truly was a piece of art. And I sent her a really long email just saying, I absolutely loved that video.
Yeah. So I thought, if you still got a little time.
Mm-hmm. Just a little bit. I got to get upstairs.
Yeah, we'll close out shortly here.
And I do have a quote from my son.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, from your son. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to show you 2 videos.
Okay.
And then you tell me which one you like. It's of the same property, both extensively done. One's shorter than the other. And it'll be fun to show the audience here as well. So I'll share my screen here. Let's see here.
And what inspired the 2 of them? Why 2?
I'll tell you why. Once you've seen them, it'll make
Okay.
better sense, I think.
Okay.
So let me move some stuff around. Share. Okay, you see my screen there?
Mm-hmm.
And here is this one here. Hold on. Let me make this bigger. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
All right.
Underwater. That's cool. White dining room with 3 kids. That's brave.
Okay, so that's one. Now this other one, gotta make sure I find it here. 1 second, 1 moment.
Commercial break.
Okay, let's try. So same house. Oops, hold on. There we go.
Ooh, I feel like I'm in a movie theater.
So same house.
Yay, Academy Award winner.
So, thoughts? Like the two of them, like it's the same house, you know?
But you get a different feel from
You
each of
do,
them.
you do get different feels. So that's why I was wondering like what your feel about it when you saw them, like right after the other, especially.
I think historically we're used to seeing the second one,
Yeah.
just the house. That's it.
Mhm.
However, I think that the first one is more, people will judge it because it has people in it. However, there's a feel you actually get an idea of what it's going to be like to live in that house.
Mom.
And the shot, oh, I love the underwater shot and just the playfulness. Can you?
Mom.
Yeah.
In the
I haven't seen him for a week. This is
in
why.
the trunk. Can I have my computer?
Yeah.
I don't have to use your phone because I want some.
Yeah, you can get that whole bag.
Videos and
It's
I'm
an
trying
Abraham.
to speak it, but it doesn't work. It just says astronomy.
Okay, well, it's in the Abraham Hicks bag. If Glenna can help you, it's heavy.
Ooh, Abraham Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
So that first one, that was a little longer. It's basically more of a lifestyle shoot.
Absolutely.
That
It
was
gives you
done.
an idea of what it's like to live in that house.
Yeah, that
What
was
your
done.
life.
That was
Yeah.
done by Corey, you know, the filmmaker that I was interviewed, and so so you can kind of see the difference. The other one's a little bit more like you could have done 20 different houses on like with the same exact style as the second video.
Yeah.
It is nice, but we just see too much of it, right?
You never said yes.
I said yes. You can go have it. Sorry. He's asking permission. I gotta love that.
That's good. So yeah, I wanted to show those to you, and you have some other comments about it?
I love the first one. It just really, it shows you the lifestyle. It shows you what it's like to live in that house, how all of the spaces are used. And there's a playfulness to it and a realness to it.
Yeah, and that family, they had never, you know, we tried to hire actors. So that was an actor family that we brought in. And so Corey had a family that he usually uses, and he knows how to, you know, shoot them and stuff, but they weren't available that weekend.
Oh.
And so I said, oh, I don't know what to do. And then that family said, oh, we have a friend that would love to do it.
There you go.
And so this family that actually showed up and filmed it.
It was perfect.
Showed up, and they were like the perfect family, 3 little kids.
Yeah.
And they
And I
brought
love the yoga and the.
and we didn't have to do anything. They brought all their stuff. They brought all their wardrobe. They did their own like matching, and like we did like, you know how normally like you have to like,
Yeah.
you know, you have to corral them, you have to manage them, and like we didn't have to do anything. We just say like sit here and like do this, and then they just did it. And then the husband drove up like nobody, he didn't tell anybody, and nobody knew, like we didn't know, and he just drove up with his Ferrari. That was his Ferrari.
Hey man.
Yeah, and so he came out like, okay, good. Let's shoot this Ferrari, you know, into the garage and stuff. And so like we didn't expect any of that, so that was really a pleasant surprise, and it worked out really well. And they were super cool. They were super fun. They made everything easy. Like they just did everything we asked them to do. So
Love it.
yeah.
Hire him again.
Yeah, for sure. And they didn't want any money. It was only $500, and like the guy owns a advertising company.
Oh, come on. He probably
And
had
so,
a hoot doing it. That's
and so
awesome.
yeah, and he didn't even know what they were doing. The wife just says, "Hey, we're gonna do this shoot on Saturday. You just show up and bring a Ferrari." That's is what the
I
wife
love
said.
it.
Yeah,
That's
and so that's what happened. He was like, "Oh, I don't know. My wife told me to show up. I showed up."
That's awesome.
So that was the story. All right, so without further ado, like we all been waiting this whole time for this awesome quote.
Okay, so this is wisdom from a 7-year-old.
Hmm.
I traveled around and looked around. And when when you do that, you find gooder and gooder things.
Oh, I love it.
Right?
Love it. Look around and gooder things. Gooder, that's a good name. That's a good word right there.
Gooder.
That should
Right?
be our that should be our what does Sharon call it? Our word. Our one word. He calls it
Oh, or one word.
one word.
Okay, Monday I'll be like gooder.
Gooder, yeah. Yeah, we got to open up our imagination here. Like we can't just say fine and good and excited like time.
Gooder. I'll start channeling my 7-year-old.
That's my goal, is to make sure I have a word that I have never used as
Right.
one word every single time, right?
Ah.
Well, Maya, thank you so much. Hey, thank you everybody for joining in. If you're watching this on a replay, feel free to comment, ask us any questions. We always love that. And, you can ask this little kid, all kinds of questions. I'm sure he's got lots of answers.
I shared your quote with them. Mm-hmm. Do you remember saying this? I don't know if you remember this. I traveled around and looked around. And when you do that, you find gooder and gooder things.
No.
I didn't think you'd remember it, but I did. I love it.
You know what? I think you should say it.
Yeah. Oh, can you say that?
I don't know how.
Here, I'll whisper it to you.
I traveled around and looked around.
And when you do that,
And when you do that,
you find gooder and gooder things.
you find gooder and gooder things.
That's right.
Hey. So there you have it.
Cut.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful Friday. Thank you, Maya,
Leo.
for
Have a good
joining us.
evening.
How do you end it?
Oh, not yet.
No, not yet. We're ending it. Not yet. Give 1 second. And thank you for being on here on the Wisdom Club Live, where we inspire unlimited possibility, and gooder things are on the way for this weekend. So I wish you all gooder things. See you guys.
Gooder weekend.
Gooder weekend. All right. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you're gonna have a good weekend.
Oh, yeah. Okay.